The case was presented as straightforward. The medical examiner disagreed, noting that the cause of death was listed as natural causes based on initial observations and circumstances surrounding the deceased's last days. However, during the postmortem examination, a poisonous substance was detected in the deceased's bloodstream, indicating an unexpected factor contributing to their demise. This revelation prompted further investigation into the nature of the toxicant and its potential role in the fatal outcome. The medical examiner's subsequent analysis aimed to clarify whether this poison represented a primary cause or a contributory factor in the death, necessitating a thorough review of all available evidence and samples collected during the autopsy procedure. This revelation prompted further investigation into the nature of the toxicant and its potential role in the fatal outcome. Chapter: Case Background. The investigation begins in a residential neighborhood of suburban Boston on the evening of March 15th. The initial report came from a neighbor who noticed unusual activity at the residence, including lights on late into the night and frequent visitors arriving and departing discreetly. Upon closer observation, the neighbor became concerned when they observed no signs of life or activity within the home for an extended period. On entering the property with permission from immediate family members, authorities found the deceased in a state of apparent rest on a bedroom couch. No obvious injuries were visible to the naked eye, leading investigators to initially assume natural causes. However, given the absence of recent communication and unusual behavior reported by those close to the deceased, suspicion arose that something more sinister might be at play. The discovery prompted an immediate call for forensic specialists, including toxicology experts, to conduct a thorough examination of both the scene and the body to uncover any potential clues regarding the cause of death. Chapter: Initial findings upon arrival at the residence. First responders noted an unresponsive individual lying supine on the living room floor. The environment was otherwise normal, without signs of forced entry or struggle indicative of foul play. An initial medical assessment revealed no external injuries consistent with trauma. However, the deceased exhibited pinpoint pupils and cyanotic skin, prompting suspicion for a toxicological cause. The scene was secured to preserve potential evidence, including any nearby containers that might contain substances relevant to the investigation. Given the absence of physical trauma and presence of suspicious clinical signs, emergency personnel collected samples from the vicinity and initiated transport to the morgue for further examination. Preliminary categorization by responding medical professionals indicated a probable poisoning based on visible symptoms and environmental factors present at the scene, necessitating an immediate toxicology report. Chapter: Forensic investigation upon arrival at the residence. A comprehensive examination of the immediate environment surrounding the deceased revealed an unmarked vial containing a viscous liquid on the nightstand. This item was secured and placed in a tamper-evident evidence bag for further analysis. No signs of forced entry or struggle were observed within the vicinity. Additionally, personal effects, including a partially consumed bottle of water with visible residue at its base, were collected under sterile conditions. Each piece of evidence was meticulously labeled with unique identifiers and documented through photographs before being transferred to the forensic laboratory. Notably absent from the scene were any containers associated with common pharmaceuticals or over-the-counter medications, suggesting that the toxic substance might have been obtained from an unconventional source. The chain of custody documentation has been rigorously maintained to ensure integrity throughout all handling procedures. The toxicological analysis was conducted to identify the presence and concentration of various substances in the deceased system. Blood, urine, liver, and stomach contents samples were collected and analyzed for a comprehensive panel including drugs, poisons, and environmental toxins. Gas chromatography mass spectrometry, GCMS, and high-performance liquid chromatography, HPLC, were utilized to detect and quantify substances at detection thresholds of 0.1 ng/ml. Histological examination revealed hepatocellular injury consistent with toxic liver damage. Microscopic findings showed fatty change, ballooning degeneration, and necrosis indicative of acute toxicity. Concentrations of strychnine, a potent neurotoxin, were detected in multiple samples at levels exceeding the lethal dose range. These results support the hypothesis that poisoning was the cause of death. The analysis of toxicological samples revealed the presence of a lethal dose of an organophosphate pesticide in the deceased system. Forensic evidence, including the detection of pesticide residue on the deceased's hands and clothing, established that exposure occurred within hours before death. The postmortem interval was determined through entomological examination, with insect development patterns indicating a time since death consistent with toxicological findings. This method yielded a confidence level of 95%, corroborated by environmental factors such as ambient temperature during the period leading up to the discovery. The timeline confirmed that ingestion took place at home, approximately 6 hours prior to the cessation of life functions, as indicated by brainstem activity patterns and cellular analysis. It contradicted earlier hypotheses suggesting an accidental exposure scenario, instead supporting evidence of intentional consumption based on the high concentration found in the stomach contents. The toxicology report revealed the presence of strychnine, a potent neurotoxin, in the deceased's bloodstream and stomach contents. This finding was corroborated by the detection of the same substance on the victim's hands and clothing, suggesting ingestion via an oral route. The expert toxicologist opined that strychnine would cause severe muscle spasms and convulsions leading to death due to respiratory failure within minutes to hours after exposure. Analysis of environmental samples from the scene provided additional evidence supporting the hypothesis of intentional poisoning, as residual traces were found on suspected delivery devices. However, the absence of a definitive mechanism for ingestion or administration leaves some aspects open to interpretation. The expert would confirm under oath that while strychnine was definitively identified and its lethal potential established, determining the exact method of introduction remains speculative based on current evidence. Chapter Resolution. The toxicology report conclusively identified a lethal concentration of strychnine in the deceased's bloodstream. This determination was made through rigorous analysis using gas chromatography mass spectrometry, which revealed characteristic peaks corresponding to strychnine metabolites. Initial assessment had suggested poisoning due to unexplained rigors and severe muscular contractions observed at the scene, but without specific toxicological markers. The presence of strychnine confirmed a rapid onset of symptoms consistent with its mechanism of action: neuromuscular hyperexcitability leading to convulsions. This finding altered our understanding from an unspecified toxin to a definitive cause of death. Strychnine's narrow therapeutic index and lethal dose range explain the acute nature of the deceased's demise. The evidence established that strychnine was introduced prior to death, likely through ingestion or injection based on stomach contents analysis. This central determination guides further investigation into potential sources and methods of administration, informing the broader inquiry into the circumstances surrounding the poisoning. This case underscores the critical role of comprehensive toxicological screening in identifying causative agents in unexplained fatalities. It highlights the necessity for stringent evidentiary standards and interdisciplinary collaboration in forensic investigations to ensure accurate determination of cause and manner of death. The file remains open.